Oh, let's make sure I can still hear you.
Check 1, 2, 3, 4,
We
5.
gotcha. Nice. All right. That's always good to have. And it says we're live. Looky there at that, guys. Here we go. Intake, welcome. It'll
Thanks,
be
repeat.
it'll be music, intake, repeat, fig. Here we go.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
This here is a true story about crossing the pond at night in the world's smallest cockpit, on the tanker, through the weather. Oh, and to the tanker crew who did that, thanks a lot. We really appreciated that. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond.
So there I was, 5,000 feet over El Centro, California, Blue Angel number 6, inverted, pulling down perpendicular to the Earth's surface. Our minimum altitude is 2,000 feet. I look into the heads-up display of my F-18, and I am at 1,100 feet, 10,000 foot per minute rate of descent. And that was January 16th, 2001.
And yet he's still here, but that is how all great aviation tales begin. Welcome, dear listeners, to another episode of So There I Was. This is Repeat coming to you from New Hampshire this evening, this morning, this afternoon, whatever time it is when you're listening. We're so glad you joined us, and we can't believe how much fun we're having, and we hope you're having as much fun as well, because this show is just growing. So thanks for sharing it. And let me hand it over right now to the person who invited this week's guest on, my co-host, Fig.
Oh, you see that intake? You just threw me right under the bus. Hey,
Right, this is your fault.
yeah. Listen, this is going to be. It's me who threw me under the bus because I invite. Come on. We've been trying.
So now you got to be
I
good.
personally,
No pressure.
listen, I've been personally trying to get intake on our show for about 6 months, and I finally cornered him, and he's motivated to do it now. So, without further ado, welcome intake.
I tell you what, Repeat, Fig, thanks for having me. I'm fired up about this podcast. And as naval aviators, no doubt there won't be enough time for all of the There I Was stories that the three of us have. But we'll squeeze in the good ones for sure.
Absolutely not. And it came up actually during a little bit of a pre-show chat. I'm going to take this from a high fun to a nasty sad low right off the bat. Sorry to do it, folks, but I want to mention a friend of mine who, back when my oldest was about 3 years old, I was distressed because I was going to have to go to training and be away from him for about 6 weeks when a gentleman by the name of Jungle Jim Ross opened his home and had me and my 3-year-old son stay with him and his family, and his bride Olga watched my son, and his oldest boys, Kyle and Connor, spent some time with my son, and that hospitality has not been forgotten. They also have a daughter, Michael Sue, and then Hadley. And I want to mention them and ask you all to keep them in your prayers. Jungle Jim Ross recently passed, and he was a fantastic friend and an incredible Blue Angel, the stuff of legend, I'm given to understand, even more so than I knew before from intake. So thank you for indulging me with that, folks.
Yeah, Repeat. I don't think that's a sad story at all, because Jungle lived a legendary life. There have been about 280 Blue Angel pilots with the team in the 77 years since they started in 1946. And Jungle is one of the most well-known stick and throttle, incredible aviators. And that is saying a lot. And I say that with great humility. I had never met him. He was a solo pilot. I was a solo pilot. I'd heard these legendary stories, one of which that he was flew inverted all the way from Houston to Pensacola on the way back from a show. But I'd never met him and didn't have the opportunity to confirm it. So I was number 5 in 2002. Fast forward to 2022, 20 years later, or 2021 at the 75th anniversary. and some of his teammates were giving a presentation. And so we all got in the elevator, and there's this kind of scraggly little old guy, really long hair, members only jacket. And but I turned to the guys that were dressed a little nicer, giving the presentation. I said, "Hey, I'm Scott Cartfett. I know Jungle Ross was on your team. I'd love to ask him if some of his stories are true. I heard he flew inverted from Houston to Pensacola." And they said, "Well, why don't you ask him? He's standing right next to you." So I turned right next to this guy, he's about this big, long hair. And I said, "Hey, Jungle, I'm intake." And he goes, "Yeah, it's true." And that's how I met Jungle Ross. So, yeah, the passing of him is tragic, and any loss for his family for sure. But I'm sure Jungle is smiling down on us and every other naval aviator, knowing the incredible lives that we have had to live, and that those that are starting out in naval aviation get to live. So I appreciate you letting me tell that story.
Right. Yeah,
That's an awesome
absolutely.
story.
Yeah, what a true legend and a true gentleman in every sense of the word. And so he will be missed. But boy, there's a guy who lived life to the fullest.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you might have lived some full life.
Would you
All right,
say
let me
full
start, with my
throttle
new lips
life?
Yeah.
Full life,
A
full
full
life.
throttle life is documented right here in my
There
new
you
book, Full
Yeah,
Throttle,
baby.
From Blue Angels to Hollywood Stunt Pilot. All right, for the listeners, that's the only shameless plug I'm going to make for the book.
Oh, we're going to get
of
more.
which,
Oh, I'm gonna coax a couple more out of him. Either that,
Absolutely.
or I'm gonna do it for him because it's an
All right.
awesome book.
Right on. So,
Well, I
we
got a
always
lot of
have to
questions
back
for
up.
you. A lot of
Yeah,
questions.
What's the first question we always ask, though, Fig?
Well, how did you get interested in flying intake?
yeah, so probably like so many of our generation, no, this is no joke, and nobody ever believes it. I saw Top Gun my senior year in high school. My best friend Bob and I told all of our buddies, like a boisterous 18-year-old would, "We're going to fly fighters." And I went to Pepperdine, became an accountant, and he went to San Diego State and got his UPT slot with Air Force ROTC. And he called me and he said, "Hey, Scott, I'm doing it. We said we were going to do it. I'm doing it." And I said, "Okay, I'll do it too." And I literally hung up the phone, pulled out the yellow pages, flipped through it, called the Navy recruiter and said, "Hey, I want to fly airplanes off of ships." And from that call, I had a most fortunate career. It was unbelievable.
And so was that what year was that? So you saw Top Gun when you were a senior in high school.
That was May 1986,
Yeah.
and 33 years later, July of 2019, I was flying as a stunt pilot in Maverick. I'm sure we'll get to that too.
Is that crazy? That's awesome. And so Pepperdine. So are you a California guy? Are you California? Did you grow up in
San
California?
Diego.
Ha!
Yeah, San Diego.
That's awesome. All right. Well, of course you wanted to be a, Top Gun guy. Why not? All right. So your commission source was AOCS, right?
Yeah, so I applied to be a pilot, paid for college myself, applied to the Navy as a pilot only, got accepted. I'd worked for a large accounting firm for about a year, and this was 1991 timeframe, so Desert Storm had just kicked off, and I went to AOCS at the end of 1991, August, commissioned in November, started flight training in December of 1991, and went full throttle for the next 22 years, just accelerating along the way because the military offers just incredible opportunities.
Our paths crossed in Kingsville, right?
Yeah, you were
Oh,
one of
no
the
kidding.
instructors,
All right.
right?
Were you in VT-22 or VT-21?
I was.
And
22.
so were you
Golden Eagles, baby.
Were you a T-45 student or a TA-4 student?
I was TA4. I was one of the last of the scooter drivers.
Okay, so I was still flying. Yeah, so that's where we passed. I was there. I was there during that time frame. I was there from
Yeah.
93 to 96.
You might
Oh,
say,
we
so
were
he
there
was.
the whole time. Yeah, we were there the whole time together. In fact, see these two little guys above my head? Those are my kids, Wyatt and Nick. One of them was a Golden Eagle VT-22, now flying Super Hornets out of Lemoore.
That's
the younger
awesome.
one, VT-21, flying the T-45, and he has selected jets also. So super proud.
Oh, that's
about that.
outstanding.
Very cool.
Well, it makes me I'm envious because I have three sons, all grown and adults, and not a single one of them ever wanted anything to do with an airplane.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
You know, but don't you?
I've got 3, and it's the middle one is my daughter, who's the one who soloed in gliders at 15 and is now at Riddle.
Oh, fabulous!
Working on her commercial this week, in fact. So if either you have $250,000 you can loan me, and by loan I mean give me and not take back. You just let me know.
Intake will probably write you a check once his book goes.
Yeah, right. That book's going high.
Yeah,
he's gonna have money coming out of
Full
his
Throttle,
ears.
folks. Go out and buy his book so my daughter can go to college.
Talk about Full Throttle, Full Throttle.
Now, who's making the plug now, Repeat? Who's making the plug now?
I told you we're going to talk about this the whole way through.
Oh, beautiful.
So I selected F-18s, and I think I saw a picture. You must have been in your first fleet squadron because you had lieutenant bars on still, and you were kind of in the back row on the right because you're kind of a tall guy, so you're always probably in the back row or somewhere in the back right. And it was on the deck of an aircraft carrier. I don't know if
the
you know
USS Independence.
Was that your first? Was that your first squadron?
It was, yeah, overseas Japan, based out of Atsugi with VFA 192.
Nice.
Unbelievable experience as a young fledgling carrier aviator because we were at sea 8 months a year. It was a phenomenal, foundational type of experience for naval aviation.
Nice. So, but you were only, I think I read, you were only able to get about 4,000 hours in the
slacker.
Hornet. So
what a slacker.
I fell a little short of the
4,000 hours at about a 1.10 of sortie. That's a lot of getting in and getting out.
This is a crazy statistic that rarely ever comes up. But since you brought up the 4,000, when I was on the Blues, I had one airplane for 2 years, and I have about 980 hours in one Buno number, 161963. And I really wish I would have got 1,000 hours. I would have put that patch, as you know, with just the Buno number in that one airplane.
That's awesome.
That would have been cool.
Yeah.
So, well, I don't want to skip ahead too much, but how is it you wound up with the Blues? Well, you know what?
No, hold on a second. Let's get there. So,
let's don't skip
let's see. 3 combat tours. No, 5 combat tours. So
5. 2 in
Iraq. Got to
2 in Afghanistan, 3 in Iraq, right?
You got to your first fleet squadron in 97?
95. So February 95,
okay.
I showed up in Atsugi, and that's a forward deployed unit. So for the listeners, they're kind of the North Korean watchdog, China at the time, Taiwanese operations, and it was just a presence all the time. And so we were gone about 8 months a year, but it was 2 weeks at a time. We treated our staterooms on the ship like an apartment.
Oh, that's cool.
Where you'd keep, it was really great. So you'd go out for 2 weeks, come in for a week, go out for 3 weeks, come home for 4 weeks. And you just constantly in and out for the whole 3 years that I was there. But during that time in September of 95 is when we went over to support Operation Southern Watch, which was combat tour number 1.
Okay.
Nice. Then, where were you on, I'm jumping ahead a little bit. Where were you on 9/11?
So 9/11, I was in Blue Angel number 6.
Oh, okay.
It was a Tuesday, if memory serves.
Yeah.
We were practicing at NES Pensacola. We had done our brief, getting ready to do our practice, and we're walking back through the pilot room, and we see that an airplane has hit one of the World Trade Towers. And all of us thought, okay, it's just some poorly trained dentist or doctor. And what
exactly what I thought, man.
Yeah. And so we jump into the airplanes and we're getting ready to take off. And in the time that we walked to the jets, the Diamond was literally in a loop at the top of the loop, which is their takeoff maneuver. 5 and 6 have taken the runway. And our maintenance officer calls, knock it off, because he had just gotten word that the FAA had shut down all airspace in the United States. And so we, 5 and 6 never got airborne. 1 through 4 land. We go back in and we realize that the second tower had been hit. Now they're on the verge of collapsing. And interestingly, as combat pilots, we immediately go into operational mode, just as I'm sure that you gentlemen did. And in the Korean War, the Blue Angels were converted to VF-191 Satan's Kittens, and they actually decommissioned for a year and went to the Korean War. And so we were looking at recommissioning as Satan's Kittens, and it takes about 72 hours to combatize a Blue Angel jet, put the gun back in, take the smoke tank out, repaint it. And we spent a solid 2 weeks putting that plan together in the event that we were needed for operations.
Yeah,
Wow.
Hold on. Whoa. You got to repaint the jet, though? You can't look cool when you're bombing the enemy?
Yeah. Well, the automotive blue and gold paint that is waxed is not radar absorbent. You would be a surface to air missile
weird.
sponge.
That's just weird.
I'm just saying, it's the saying in naval aviation. It's
Right.
better to look good and die than live and look stupid. You want it to look good and bomb,
That's exactly right.
95, so 96, 97, 98. So 98, 90. When did you come back from Japan? 98, 99 time frame?
At end of 97 is when I checked into VMF 18-101 in El Toro, Marine Corps Air Station El Toro.
To be an IP?
As it was, to be an IP, as it was decommissioning. I was a landing signal officer there to teach the Marines how to land on the ship. Which, as you know, is harder than one could imagine.
That's exciting.
We used a lot of pictures.
Yeah, right. Hey, whoa! I think we've just been insulted, Fig. I could be wrong.
That's all right. I know how to find him. I know how to find him in person.
Right.
I'll sneak up on him.
Man. Well, I got to jump in on that. What's the funniest, scariest, most terrifying, most amazing thing you saw as an LSO? Well, you were standing on the deck watching your friends fly.
Yeah, so honestly, landing, I can't really think of anything because we're so offensive, if you will, to ensure that we mitigate the risk and stay in a safe envelope on the glide slope. As far as meatball lineup angle of attack is concerned, but one night I was out there, and a good buddy of mine, Rico, in the back of an F-14. They launch off of Cat 1. And what the vestibular system feels as though you're pitching up because of the acceleration. And so you have to fight pushing forward. And so he was a backseater at the time. And so the pilot pushed forward and they leveled off at 60 feet at night over the water instead of climbing. And so there was a miscommunication. They thought there was something wrong with the jet. So it pulled the handle. They eject, Tomcat goes in the water. And so we go running over to the side of the ship on the starboard side, starboard stern. And I just remember looking down and seeing Rico floating by, waving up, and everybody's yelling, "Are you okay?" And all the sailors on the smoking sponson, because you have to smoke outside, they're all smoking as they're watching this guy float by. They didn't even know that somebody had ejected. It was just one of those really surreal moments.
Right.
Oh, that's beautiful. So there is a place to smoke on the deck of an aircraft carrier.
No, it's not on the deck. It's down.
Not on the deck.
It's one notch below, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Like the catwalk.
Exactly.
I call it a catwalk. It's not really a catwalk.
Because we had a gent on earlier that his call sign was Sugar, but he was an enlisted Marine when President Jack Kennedy took his lighter. He looks around. He goes, "Can I smoke out here on the deck of the Oriskany?" And everyone's looking at each other like, "Who's going to tell the president no?"
That there's
No
gas
smoking on the
fumes,
flight.
hydraulics, oil.
Yeah.
Yes,
well,
Mr. President, you can smoke. And then
they weren't actually
Your
conducting
ship.
flying ops at the
At the
time.
time,
They were
yeah.
watching an aerial demonstration. It's a good.
Nice.
Yeah.
But,
Wow.
yeah. So he
Jeez.
loaned him his lighter, and Jack Kennedy took his lighter that he bought himself when he graduated from boot camp. So,
That's great.
but yeah, no kidding. Wow, floating by, waving. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. So from VMA T101, VMFA T101.
Yep.
Then where'd you go?
So I had applied to the Blues in '98 and was unsuccessful. And this is just kind of a fascinating story. I'll tell it quick. So I went into the first interview. I was selected as a finalist. There's 30 people a year that are qualified to apply to the team, that do apply to the team, and they end up selecting 6 to be a finalist, and you get interviewed by the team for a couple of days actually. And so I go in there, and they had asked me the dumbest thing I'd ever done in an airplane. And I thought that I should tell them that I'd never really made a mistake and that I was really, really good. And so I told them some ridiculous story about being off altitude. And V8, who was V8, who was number 5 at the time, goes, "That's it? That's your dumbest story?" And I said, "Yeah." And they didn't pick me that year. And I reapplied, and the second year. And Wolfie, who was the slot pilot at the time, was a big supporter of mine. And he said, "Hey, look, you just be honest and tell the truth, right? And be honest in your answers." And so I went in, and they asked 2 questions that I very much remember. The first one was, "Tell us the dumbest thing you've ever done in an airplane." And that story was, I was the wingman. We were doing an air power demonstration, to reference your earlier story, for the Japanese CNO who was on the USS Independence. And we were going to do a wall of water where we dropped 500 pounders in a string.
Right. Impressive.
And, I was the wingman. I was on the inboard side, and the flight lead had gotten us too close aboard. So we pickle our ordnance, frag the USS Independence. The Japanese CNO dives behind the admiral of our ship, of the battle group. And so I told that story, right? You want the truth? Here's the truth. And Wolfie says, "That was you?" Because it was one of those stories that at the time a lot of people knew. And I
around the whole fleet.
Yeah, for sure. And I said, "Well, yeah, it was. But let me tell you what I learned from it, as not only a combat wingman, but as a leader, and things that I would do different to help prevent it," and shifted it into a learning event. And then the second question they asked was, they brought back 2 other finalists. So there were 3 former finalists there for 2 spots. I was the youngest guy. And they said, "Hey, would you reapply a 3rd year?" And I said, "That's an unanswerable question, because what you're asking me, if I say yes, I will, then I give you the opportunity to pick the other 2 and skip me. And if I say no, then I appear uninterested." So to me, it's an unanswerable question. But let me make one thing really clear. I want to be selected to the 2000 Blue Angels. That's my goal, and that's why I'm here today. And those 2 questions I remember very distinctly. And so for your listeners, there's a couple of great lessons there. One, tell the truth. Make sure you're learning from mistakes, because the Blues don't want you to be the very best. They want you to be able to learn. And the second is certainly, defend yourself and make your position clear. So I'll make my
great advice.
Well played.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, that really is. It's, sorry, I disagree with the premise of your question, and here's why. That's great.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah. So, we had a couple of episodes with Lawman specifically about his Blue Angel experience, and his he had us in stitches, because they harassed him pretty hard. He was the only Marine on the team at the time, and plus he was a Harrier guy. So how was that experience for you as the F&G? Now, were you the narrator one year before you went to the number 6?
I was.
Or how'd that work? Okay.
I was. So every pilot selected to the team gets 2 years as a demonstration pilot. 1 pilot each year gets selected to be number 7, the narrator. Most people don't want to be the narrator, because you're kind of like the aide de camp to the other pilots, right? They're in the show, they're signing autographs. You're number 7, you're narrating.
The SLJO.
Yeah, you're not really, you're on the team, but you're serving the team. Yeah. I loved being the narrator. The number 8, I had 2 number 8s. Iron Shank was the first one, and Marcello Caceres was the second. So Cello and Iron. And Iron and I had 2 F-18s with our names on it that were exclusively for our use to get us anywhere that we needed to go, that the Blue Angels needed us to be. And so I was exceptionally autonomous for an entire year with not only my own F-18, but a backup F-18. And I just had a great time.
A lot of PR, right? Public relations stuff.
You were reporters and
a lot of PR, all the media flights. I probably flew 150 people in the back seat of the F-18.
How many of them did you get to hurl?
Well, so interesting. You don't try to get them to hurl, but some of them want. 8 Gs, or normally it's the aileron rolls
Yeah.
that
Right.
make people throw up. It's not the G, but about 50% of the people lose consciousness, and about 66% of the people vomit. Now, so the question to you two, if I could ask a question, is: do you think the women perform better or the men perform better?
The women perform much
Women
better. No doubt in my
all
mind.
day.
By far, yeah, because I called it the testosterone factor.
Oh, yeah.
The guys get so excited because they're telling all their buddies, "I'm going to fly in a jet. I'm going to fly in a jet. I'm going to fly in a jet." That they get so worked up hormonally that they're a mess. And the women show up, they're like, whatever. Okay, great. We'll have a good time.
Nice.
Yep. It's yeah. I totally.
awesome.
Yeah.
They're
I would've got
they're
that.
just more relaxed, and they enjoy the heck out of the flight. So I enjoyed my number 7 year. It was wonderful.
All right. So as number 7, what celebrities did you fly?
Well, so the year that I was number 7, it's interesting. You would think a lot of celebrities would want to fly. A lot of them can't because their insurance doesn't allow them to fly.
That's
even
such
though they would like.
bullshit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Come
yeah. It's
on.
crazy.
Yeah, right?
It's
That's a bullshit
crazy.
story.
I'll tell you 2 quick stories. The first one was a guy named David Bin. He was a long snapper for the Chargers, and we work through the series of maneuvers to get their body physiologically ready for more G, right? To see if they can handle it. We got mirrors that we're looking at them to make sure they're okay. He puked after every single maneuver for 45 minutes. And I go, "Dave, man, are you okay?" He'd be
How
like,
could he
"Yeah,
have any vomit left?
He'd go, "Do another one." And so I would do another maneuver, do another one. But I said, "Man, are you okay?" He's like, "This is a once in a lifetime. I'm never going to get to do this again. I want the whole thing."
Squirrel
so-
cage me.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, another one, I flew a producer for ABC, and it was at the end of the year. He's a big, hulking guy, really muscular. And I thought, "Oh, this guy, he's going to do really great." And we do the first maneuver, and I can see him turning green. And the testosterone started to take over. And I said, "Hey, why don't we take a break, look out at the horizon? I want you to have a good flight." And he goes, No, go ahead. So I go into the next maneuver. He vomited so violently that I had vomit come forward. It's about 8 feet. Hits me in the shoulder, the side of the helmet, and hits my displays. And repeat, I was laughing so hard because nobody had ever, just like you guys, I mean, uncontrollable. And I had to tell them, like, "Hey, man, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing away. I mean, this is insane." That was a projectile vomit like nothing I've ever seen.
Oh,
No.
man, talk about power puking. Oh,
Yeah.
dear God.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was pretty brutal.
So you had 2 jets, your name on them, autonomous. How many? I mean, just give me a ballpark figure. So that was one season. How much flight time did you log flying around the country?
Oh gosh, big. We would take off every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. We were the first ones to
go to
leave
the
NAS
site.
Pensacola to go to wherever we were going.
Yeah.
And so if we were going to Seattle, we would leave at 7 a.m. We could go anywhere we wanted. I would always take a crew chief with me. And so either Roy or Vic, and I taught those guys how to fly. If Vic's mom was in El Paso, so we would stop in El Paso, have lunch with his mom, and then
That's
as long
awesome.
as it was efficient to get to where we were going. But we might fly 3 legs to the show site, do 3 media flights, so it was 6 flights a day. I mean, it was just
Wow.
It was unbelievable
It's off
amount
the
of
charts.
flying.
Holy
Yeah.
cow. Oh,
Yep.
man. And imagine, you enlist in the Navy, you're never going to get to fly, and the next thing you know, you're flying a Blue Angel jet because you're a crew chief for him.
Oh yeah, I would teach him to land. We had a lot of fun. And I'm still, as you would imagine, I'm still in touch with those crew chiefs. They're amazing.
Well, several people I've talked to about it, though, said that's, obviously everyone looks at the pilots. That's the glamour job, right? But the team that makes that happen are second to none. Those guys will work.
Oh yeah.
When the FedEx packages arrives at 11 o'clock at night, those guys are working on the jet all night to make the show happen. So
Yeah. And then the Marines, the C-130, the bird pilots, we could lose an engine during a practice at 5 o'clock. They'd have to fly from Seattle back to Pensacola or to Lemoore, get a new jet, bring it back, land at 3 a.m. The maintainers are there, swap out the engine so it's ready to go for the next show. I mean, it is It's
intense.
NASCAR, Formula One,
Yeah.
all wrapped in one. It just happens to be jets.
I saw that firsthand. So I was fortunate enough to do Fleet Week in San Francisco 5 years in a row, dropping the leapfrogs. So we parked
Nice.
our Air Guard C-130 over in Oakland, right next to the Blues, and so we would go and have lunch with all the Blues maintainers and it was always catered, and we'd watch the show, and they worked their tits off. I mean, it was
Oh,
impressive.
yeah.
And they took, that was, it was pride. It just oozed, the Blue Angel ethos oozed through everybody that was part of the organization.
Absolutely. The discipline, the commitment, the pride, the professionalism, it sets the tone for the remainder of your life, really, on what is possible.
I just don't understand how they picked you.
Yeah. Your listeners are probably thinking the same thing. That guy, he tried to blow up the independence.
Oh, that's hilarious. So, you did your year as the narrator, and I'm just imagining this because I heard this spiel so many times that I can reel it off. So, the Blue Angel Diamond is on the runway. Can you do that spiel right now in your sleep?
I can do the opener since 1946.
Commander Cochran calls for brakes now, burners now, smoke now, and the Blue Angel Diamond is rolling.
Yeah, that's right.
All right,
Yeah,
I'm not
right.
I'm not going to make you do that. That's pretty funny.
That's crazy.
I would imagine
That's
you're.
crazy. So, what was it like the first time sitting in a blue and gold jet, though, going, like Lawman got his flight suit stapled together.
Yeah, they stapled his flight suit together the very first time he could wear it, and so did what happened to you? What kind of shenanigans did they pull on you as the new guy?
The shenanigans are deep and long-lasting and never-ending. I guess the way that I would equate it is I'd imagine it's like a rock band who is constantly on tour, right? And so there is just shenanigans and great times by the crew, the pilots, just to keep it alive. And maybe they would take zip ties and put them on your axle, so you'd be driving, it'd be going thup, 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 and you'd find this really thick zip tie on your axle, or they take the holes from a hole punch and dump them into your AC unit. So when you turn the AC on, you get blasted by all these.
This is rental cars.
Holes, man.
Rental cars.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Rental cars.
Yeah.
So every Blue Angel has his. Wait, do you guys have your own rental cars, or you pair up?
We pair up. So 7 and 8 pair up, 5, 6 pair up, 3, 4, 2 and dock, and then the boss has his own car.
Of course. Yeah. So there's that.
Yeah.
So you spent your year as number 7, and then spring or winter training the following year. So that'd have been that'd have been January 2001.
That's right.
You went out to El Centro.
Yeah, we went to El Centro. So I'll finish the story.
Somewhere in there, you led with this. So I kind of want to hear how this goes.
So we're introducing a maneuver. At the time, it was called the Bahi, and we would fly up from behind the crowd, climbing above them, out in front of them, roll inverted, pull perpendicular to the Earth's surface, roll 90 degrees, and cross. Seems complicated. If I had a model, it would seem very dynamic, but for a carrier pilot, it's fairly benign. But it's the first time we had flown it. We briefed it, we visualized it, we did all of our chair flying, and our minimum altitude we decided was 2,000 feet. Most of the Blue Angel, in fact, all of the Blue Angel maneuvers are done at 200 feet and about 400 knots. They could be lower, but we keep it high because we're recruiters and we want the children in the spectator area to be able to see the airplanes, right? Because we're trying to inspire. Anyhow, so our minimum altitude, 2,000 feet. Well, we go blowing down. I look into the heads-up display. I see 1,100 feet. You get that tickle on the back of your neck, the hair standing
And
out.
you're still 90 degrees down?
Yeah. And so I get this, something isn't right. I look into the heads-up display. I see 1,100 feet, and I have 3 thoughts. Eject, you can't pull. And so my first thought was eject. The second one was knowing that I would have gone right into the hole. following the
Yeah.
airplane.
Yep.
So I just pulled for everything I was worth. Any guesses? Repeat. How low do you think I got? Remember, the minimum altitude was 2,000 for this maneuver.
Yeah, I just it
Take a
those kind of
guess.
speed. Doing the math just off the top of my head, I'm guessing under 500 feet.
Okay. Any guesses?
Yeah, I'm gonna say 100 feet.
Okay. Yeah, those are all high. So the radar altimeter on
High.
the F8, yeah, the radar altimeter on the F-18 records into the black box every 3/4 of a second. And when they pulled the black box to look at the tapes, the minimum altitude was 27 feet. So 1,973 feet below the absolute minimum. We obviously
27
stopped.
feet is where you bottomed out.
That's correct. Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Good.
And yeah, and so I'm confident, having seen the tape, that I got into some semblance of ground effect. Fly away, we go back, we land, we stop flight operations for the day. We have a discussion where, how did it happen? Why did it happen? And are there any other maneuvers that are at risk for similar conditions?
Yeah.
Uh,
Fair question.
Was this a
and
new maneuver, by the way? Intake, was it new?
It was introduced in 2000.
Okay.
And it wasn't that entertaining to look at. It was hard to make it hit correctly.
Yeah.
And so that was the last time it was flown, because the risk was far greater than what the wow factor that anybody would get. And so anyhow, I was flying the next day. We debriefed it. We had a very thorough debrief. The whole team
Lord.
went home, went to bed, back the next day, boom, right back at it, back to training.
That
It's a
just
different world.
it flashed a thought. I looked at the pictures you sent with the email. There's one picture, and I mean, it is almost perfect, of you guys, the solo guys, passing. I don't know what maneuver it is, but you're passing in front of the crowd, and you're both 90-degree plan form, and whoever took the picture took it perfectly, because
Right.
you guys were right at the cross, and it looks like you're right on top of each other. It's sick, right?
Yeah, I know exactly the picture you're talking about, because I use it often. And that's Dino and I. He was 6, I was 5, and it just happened to be one of those images, or pulled off of a video at the time. However, any Blue Angel would see it and go, "Yeah, that was me. That was me," because
Yeah.
it's hard to, unless somebody hands it to you and go, "I took this yesterday of you." It's
Is
pretty hard
this
to
the
tell.
same Dino that was
I don't
slot
think
pilot
so, 'cause
with?
that was 94, 95.
Right.
No. You're talking
different
a
Dino.
different Dino. Yep.
Okay. I was gonna say, wow. He's got a
Flintstones got a
glutton
new
for
dog.
punishment. Nice. Well, that whole story you just told, the 27 feet. My palms are wet right now.
Yeah.
Oh,
just
yeah.
just thinking about that.
In a
I
summer.
remember a couple times getting that.
Mistakes were made.
We get this
The
big.
classic aviation Swiss cheese model, right? One thing followed by another thing, followed by another
Yeah.
thing, followed by another thing, and death by 1,000 slashes, but
When
missed
those
it,
holes line up.
survived by that much.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody that flew tactical jets has that one moment where you go,
Right.
"Woof, that was close."
That was closer than it should have been. Yeah.
Yeah, it's when you have them over and over and over, you probably ought to. You might have an issue.
That it might be you.
It might be you. It might not be the Swiss cheese thing anymore.
I don't know how many milliseconds 27 feet is at those speeds, though. But
Repeat someday. I'll show you the video, because I happen to have the video. And, for the listeners that are going, "Man, I wish they'd post it." No chance.
Yeah. No.
But you can imagine that it's scary, and I saw it about 5 years after it happened, and I thought it would be neat to see it. And to tell you the truth, I almost vomited,
yeah.
because it was that
close.
It was that close.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it sounds to me like that's as close as you'd come without actually Morton.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you didn't. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
That's right.
Amen.
And by the way, I just had this thought. There were a handful of guys, Navy guys, that went through Kingsville the time I was an instructor down there, that ended up on the Blue Angels, besides you. Are you aware of that?
I would have, yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay.
Dino Pepper, JD,
And
Jack.
the boss in
Lo-
2017,
Yeah.
he was a Navy Kingsville
That
guy
was actually
too.
one of your first stories that you brain dumped in the middle of, Fig, wasn't it? Is that the guy you were sitting in the restaurant in San Francisco?
Yeah, I'm at a restaurant. I'm at a little breakfast cafe a few blocks away from the hotel that everybody stayed at, for the
Yeah.
Fleet Week. And I'm up there, but I got away from the crew. I want to be by myself, so I go up there early. I'm having breakfast, and this guy's burning. He's burning, his eyes into me from. It's a little small place. And he keeps just looking at me. I'm like, God, I hope this guy didn't want to start a fight because I really don't want to fight right now. I just want to have my breakfast, And
2017, you thought there was going to be a breakfast fight?
well, this guy kept eyeballing me. He kept giving me the eye like I'm coming over there and it's on, right? That's what hey, look, we're always like, be professional, right? Be professional, be kind, but always have a plan to kill everyone you meet. So I'm making this plan as he's eyeballing me. Okay, I'm going to grab this fork. I'm going to stick it in his eye. I'm going to, Anyway, I get up to, I go to pay, and he gets up and kind of tries to cut me off, and he goes, "Hey, you're Fig, right?" And I'm like, now I'm at a disadvantage because he knows who I am, and I don't know. He goes, yeah. And he goes, "Hey, man, I was one of your flight students in Kingsville." And I'm like, "Oh, no way. What's your name?" And he told me, and I go, "So what do you do now?" And he goes, "I'm the boss of the Blue Angels." And I went, "Oh, you're why I'm here, actually."
That is awesome. Was it Popeye or Butt?
Gosh,
I'm trying to think from 17.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been. Yeah, I think it's 17 or I think 2017 was the last year I did it. So, and that was
Okay,
it.
okay.
So it was the September, whenever Fleet Week is in San Francisco. It's like September, October-ish of 17. Whoever the boss was then, that was the guy.
Yeah, out of curiosity, I'm assuming you put the fork down and
I did.
had a conversation. Yeah, good.
Oh, I did. I put it in my jacket pocket. Make it look like
Kept
I
it
had
handy
it.
just in case.
Yeah. Well, he was with a bunch of dudes, and I'm thinking, all right, they're making a plan. They're going to jump me. And I'm like, all right,
That's great.
It's go time, mother effers.
I love it. I love it.
He was with his family, the whole deal. So,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he had some big kids. So you didn't die in training, and you did 2 years as a opposing solo, one as 6 and then one as 5 as the lead solo, right?
As a lead solo, yep.
So how that was a lot. That was a lot. So 3 years. How'd that? Well, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to put words in your mouth. Well,
I
okay.
want you to validate something. I guess that Lawman said.
Well,
What's the best
this
part of being
is
a
what
Blue
Lawman
Angel?
said.
Yeah. What's the worst part? And what's the best part of being a Blue Angel?
Yeah. All right. I wasn't going to go there, but let's go there.
Yeah.
Yeah. The day that you get hired and the day that you depart the team.
Pretty much.
I think it's kind of common, but I mean, it takes its toll. For the listeners, number 7 leaves every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m., gets home Sunday night. Monday is the one day off, and if there's a maintenance issue that has to be checked, number 7 does the maintenance flight. So, I mean, it's a crazy busy year. And then when you're in the demonstration, when I was 6 and 5, you're still leaving on Thursdays. And so for 3 years, I was never home for more than 3 days straight, except between November 15th and January 3rd, when we would be, from the end of one season until we went to winter training. And so I think it's really hard on the families, but my wife, Lisa, was exceptional. The kids all enjoyed. We lived in the same cul-de-sac on base, and, they made it work. But
that's cool.
Yeah.
Where did you meet your wife?
Pepperdine. That's not true. Okay. She went to Pepperdine. We met on the ski slopes in Steamboat Spring or Steamboat, Colorado, on a Pepperdine ski trip.
Okay.
Didn't start dating, but that's where I met her.
Okay, that's way cool. And obviously, same wife. You guys stayed together even through
30
all the deployments and everything.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, 31 years last week, actually.
Ah, congratulations.
Well done,
Yeah,
sir.
thank you.
Well
Thank you.
well played.
Yeah.
You obviously married way above your pay grade,
Way
as we all did, and well done, well done.
Yeah.
So, repeat before I start asking more questions. Do you have anything else about you want us to talk about the Blues?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head. That's fascinating flying, but and a great recruiting tool. But I want to hear more about well, let me ask this: what was your best job? And I bet it wasn't the Blues. What was your best job in the Navy?
Oh, I can tell you what it is right now without having to say
So
it.
can I?
Go ahead. I want to hear you say it.
Yeah, for me, it was operational command of an F-18 unit, and so we were deployed 13 of 17 months. We did back-to-back tours, and we were gone a lot, and it was hard again on the sailors and the families.
Where were you based at the time? Where were you based?
We were based out of Virginia Beach, and we did back-to-back pumps, back-to-back to Afghanistan. But it's interesting, and it's a nice segue from the Blues, because I'm probably my name is most recognized from the Blue Angels,
Sure.
but I am by far and away most proud of the combat operations and having command and keeping the sailors motivated during 13 of 17 months. So,
Yeah, that's rough, man.
Right.
That's rough. That's a true leadership challenge in itself.
But we were doing great work, and we valued and respected the sailors and the time that they did have at home so that they could commit themselves wholly. We incorporated the families into that, the entire commitment, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a marvelous time.
So intake, I'm sorry, did I interrupt?
I was going to say, and we did some good work on behalf of the United States. So,
that's my next question. Give me an average combat sortie. What it looked like for somebody in your squadron to fly a combat sortie into Afghanistan.
Yeah, so I'll transition you from the Blues into Shock and Awe 2003. So I leave the Blues in 2005. I hang up the number 5 flight suit, and I go to the Fleet Replacement Squadron to get operationally trained on employing the F-18 as a weapons system. But Shock and Awe was getting ready to kick off, and I was headed to my department tour. And I show up to go through a full syllabus because all I've done is fly for the Blues for 3 years. And they're like, hey, intake, you are going out to the USS Stennis. You're going to get your carrier qualification, and then you're going to join the USS Roosevelt in the Eastern Mediterranean Sea for Shock and Awe. And I said, yeah, I haven't done any weapons training at all. I mean, GPS weapons, laser guided weapons, they're all brand new from when I was flying before. I mean, and they're like, yeah, but you're a Blue Angel. And I said, yeah, so if you want to scare the enemy by having me fly over them upside down at 200 feet, then I'm your guy. I'm the best in the Navy. But if you
want me to hit a target with a bomb, you better train me.
If you want me to employ a joint direct attack munition, I'm going to need some time. Right. And they said, no. And so I went to the Stennis, got carrier qualified, flew out to the USS Roosevelt, did one sortie, which was really to get me my carrier current again. During that 1.5 hour, we were on a secure radio, and they were walking me through the employment weapons switchology to employ the weapons. Day 2, over Turkey, over Incirlik, turning south into northern Iraq. I swear to God.
You are shitting.
Yeah, no, it was nuts.
Literally hands-on HOTAS class.
HOTAS class over secure radio. Wow.
That's right. Yeah, so that was combat deployment number 2, 2003 Shock and Awe in Iraq. Coming in from the north.
I thought you said that was the ring finger on the left hand. Son of a bitch.
So would you guys take off, refuel, and then go in, or take off, go in, come back, hit a tanker on the way out?
So all of the ops in Afghanistan and Iraq were traditionally 4.5 to 6 hours. So we would take off, fly for about an hour and a half, tank, go in for an hour, vulnerability window.
Yeah.
come back out if you still had ordnance, tank again, go back in for a second vulnerability window, tank a third time, head back to the ship and land. And so they would try to schedule 4.5 to 6 hours, depending on the coverage. But sometimes you'd get extended to 7.5.
That's rough, dude.
And you could do that maybe 3 days in a row. But for the listeners, the ejection seats are not Barca loungers. I mean,
No,
they're
a lot of cushion in
hard,
those bad
firm
boys.
seats. And I can remember when I was CO in Afghanistan, after 3 of those events in a row, I'd have to have crew chiefs come in and kind of help me stand up because your hips are just locked up, your
Right.
glutes are locked. I mean, because you've been sitting in one position for 7.5 hours on an ejection seat.
And where was the ship? Were you guys in the Indian Ocean going over Pakistan?
No,
or did you say
the Roosevelt. The Roosevelt was off the eastern coast of Cyprus in the Eastern Med, and there were 2 carriers, a day and a night carrier, coming in from the north to hit Tikrit, Mosul, and some of the northern cities as we collapsed on Baghdad.
I just confused Afghanistan with Iraq. Sorry.
Oh yeah, and then in the south there were 2 carriers also as we supported the troops north and south as they came into Baghdad. And then in Afghanistan we were in the North Arabian Sea, and we would fly kind of right along the Iranian border, but in Pakistan. Same thing, hour and a half, tank, couple of vulnerability windows depending on the ordnance that you had remaining and what they needed. And then we'd fly back over Pakistan, go land on the ship.
Gotcha.
In and out the what they call that? Not the highway. The
it was the highway, wasn't
yeah,
it?
but they had a name for
right
it.
now.
There was
Yeah.
a name for it. It was the oh damn it, I can't
Yeah.
remember. But oh yeah, but I was on that a lot. All right.
Yeah.
Well, before we go any further, I just want to say thank you for your service. By the way,
Amen.
I want to. I feel the need to tell a combat veteran, a fellow combat veteran, thank you for your service.
Well, I appreciate that. I always feel a little bit silly when somebody says that, because I really truly embraced every moment of it. And for the listeners, I would say don't only thank the veteran, thank the family members, right? Because they were the ones who were at home worrying,
you got that right,
concerned, and they serve equally the same way that the service member does, for sure.
Yeah, no, they do indeed. The families are amazing, and some of the Marine sailors, soldiers, and airmen manage to do it without good support from the families. But boy, it makes your life a whole lot easier. And all credit to those on the home front who keep things running, because it's miserable without that kind of
Absolutely.
support, so.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, though. Appreciate it, Fig. Thanks, Repeat.
Intake, is there any particular mission that sticks out that you think about a lot, that was pivotal?
Or you try not to think about a lot.
Or you try not to think about it anymore? Is something funny, scary from your combat tours?
2003 and 5. So that was my department tour. 2003 was Saginaw. We went back in 2005. I was operations officer of VFA 15. And now we're in the Persian Gulf, going up into the south. And that's when Fallujah and Ramadi were taking place. So we were looking for a lot of IEDs and trying to isolate and neutralize anybody that we saw putting them in, or supporting ground forces. And they were coming down the Tigris River out of Syria. And so I can remember employing against a bit of a stronghold right on the Syrian border. And again, this is 2005, so Syrian operations hadn't even kicked off. Still in Iraq, but neutralizing a weapons cache in that general area. That was big secondaries coming out of that.
You're being talked on by some forward air controllers on the ground.
Yeah, joint tactical air control. Yeah, joint tactical air controller on the ground, right, with the 9-line running in, dropping, and you're lasing. And for the listeners, the lasing, you're guiding your own weapon in on this laser spot that you are putting, and that can be super stressful because the laser can get masked without getting into the details. But then when you see the weapon hit the laser mark, it's pretty awesome.
It's like, yes.
Yeah.
Well, Repeat. I'm gonna press on unless you've got.
Yeah, no, I think we're getting close to. So you had command of a Hornet squadron, and then you were on to being selected the first Navy F-35 commanding officer.
Yeah, so just to fill in a couple of the gaps there, I did the department tour was Iraq 3 and 5, and then I was an aide to Northern Command and Pacific Command. Getting to sit in meetings with Secretary Rumsfeld, President Bush. You can see him up over here over my shoulder, and very high level, kind of a PhD in leadership. Chairman Pace. It was incredible. The admiral that I worked for allowed me to come into all of those meetings. I selected F-18 Command while I was in that tour, and then did the 13 of 17 months in Afghanistan, supporting Operation Enduring Freedom, and then was selected to be the requirements officer for F-35 in the Pentagon. And so I went, and that was 2010.
Hey, let me stop you right there.
Yeah.
The year that you were in command of the F-18, what squadron was that?
VF-83 Rampagers. Yeah, and we won the Battle E and the Safety S, the Michael J. Astosian Award. We had an incredible squadron. It was amazing.
That's outstanding. And was that 09, 2009?
I checked in as the XO in 8, took command in 9, and left in October of 10.
So did you do? Were you guys deployed 2009, 2010 timeframe?
Yeah, 2009 and 10. So pre-McChrystal, when we were just employing at will, and then McChrystal took over as the ISAF commander, and he changed his tactical directive, so it became a little more stingy on what you could employ on, which was a little frustrating, right? Because you want to support the ground forces and deliver ordnance.
We'll have to talk offline sometime when I see you in person, because we had a little overlap in Afghanistan and during that time frame.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. I look forward to that. I'll let you buy the beers.
Okay.
Well played.
I will. I'm gonna.
I know. I've got a quick one. We've glossed over it, and then we can move into. You filled in some gaps, and then we'll go into first F-35. But we get asked this a lot. When we forget, we get reminded. How did intake come about?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
call sign. Yeah. How'd that happen?
I do a lot of corporate training, and I used to ask when I was a little bit heavier, hey, where do you think intake came from? And when people started saying you eat a lot, is when I kind of stopped asking the crowd. Actually, if I turn to the profile repeat so your viewers can see it, I have a big nose. I take in more than my fair share of air, just like a jet engine. That's where intake comes from.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice. Well, at least it wasn't a self-inflicted stupidity wound like so many.
No,
right.
there were plenty of opportunities, and you've heard some of them today.
Yeah.
It could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Holy smokes! All right, so.
Well, we were talking offline. You were the requisition officer for, was it the F-35 program?
Procurement and requirements for the F-35 in the Pentagon, and thank goodness I was only there for about 10 months, because that place will suck the patriotism right out of you. No offense to those who make it a career, but I consider myself much more of an operator. And then they were standing up the first F-35 unit in Eglin Air Force Base, VFA 101, the Grim Reapers, a legendary Tomcat fleet replacement squadron. And they needed a CO. And I had just come off an exceptionally operational F-18 command. I was the F-35 requirements officer. So I was selected and approved by the Chief of Naval Operations to go stand up the Navy's first stealth fighter squadron, which was incredible, right? What an honor.
Okay. Is that when you crossed paths with Nasty?
So I was with Nasty in the Pentagon.
Pentagon. Okay.
With him in what they call the ranch N98, where I worked directly with Nasty.
Procurements and requisition. Is that not the Pentagon?
That's correct. That's
Oh,
correct.
okay.
I'm sorry, repeat. I thought we were transitioning to Eglin. Yeah, I was with Nasty in the
Yeah, I'm
Pentagon.
trying to. I don't don't follow my lead. Keep going down the right path. No, I was just curious when you were talking about procurements and requisition. I thought that's when you had crossed with Nasty. So,
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
Worked very
Gotcha.
closely with him. A great American.
Intake. What year was it that you went to Eglin to stand up the FA 101 Green Reapers as an F-35?
2001. So I went down there. The command had not commissioned
That doesn't
yet,
sound right.
but
You mean 2010?
I'm sorry, 2011. 2011.
11. Okay.
2011, I went down to Eglin. Technically, I was number 7 to check into the command, but they gave me a bunch of hand-picked, incredible department heads that were all O5s. And so a lot of people think, oh, first stealth fighter squadron had to be exceptionally difficult. Well, I'd had command before, but it was actually really great because the supporting group that I had was so talented that we were able to blow it up and expand it into the first stealth fighter squadron in the U.S. Navy inventory. But I certainly didn't do it alone, that's for sure.
Right. What? No, but I can see why they put the top performing people in there because it's a new program. You can't afford to have it fail.
No.
You can't afford self-inflicted stupidity wounds by.
And then how long? So how long were you guys in Eglin? Did you ever move the squadron while you had it to Oceania or?
No, so we stood up VFA 101, the Grim Reapers, and built it out. We were waiting for delivery of the first airplane. There was talks of moving it to Lemoore, but Eglin was going to be the F-35 Center of Excellence. The Air Force, the Marines, and the Navy were all there. And I was actually pushing really hard for that because it would have been a center of excellence and delay Lemoore or delay Oceania because it's supposed to be this collaborative joint platform weapon system, 9 partner nations. But as it turns out, we don't play that well with each other as far as philosophies and operation, philosophies and training. And so the Marine Corps, as you know, pulled their F-35s to Yuma, and the Navy pulled them to Lemoore. But at that point, I had left the Navy, retired, and had moved on.
So is that when you became a Hollywood stunt pilot?
Yeah, I guess so.
Hollywood.
Because I mean, this is pretty awesome, man. So tell us how. So you transitioned down the Navy, and so I know what the Patriot jet team is because I've seen them fly at the Fleet Week before. Actually, it's probably you I saw.
I would hope so. Yeah.
But so how does that take place? What?
So I was at San Francisco Fleet Week, didn't know the Patriot jet team existed, happened to bump into them where they were parking their airplanes. And the number 6 pilot at the time was on the Blue Angels with me, banker. And I bumped into him. How's the wife? How are the kids? Hadn't talked to him in 20 years. And he says, hey, Intake, we're looking for a guy. Are you interested? And all of my successes come from having said yes to so many things. And I said, yes, I'm interested. And 2 weeks later, I'm doing loops to music in an L-39 with the owner of the team. And they offered me the position of his number 5 pilot. And which I took because lightning doesn't strike twice very often, and
sure.
And so it's an incredible team. Former Thunderbirds, former Blues, exceptionally competent non-military pilots, and I have flown with them now since 2017. So in my 6th year with them, but in 2018, the owner Howler. Combined with K2, who is a helicopter pilot in Hollywood, and they combined and put together a company called Cinejet to put in a bid for the cinematography contract for Maverick. They won the bid because Randy had the jets. They mounted Kevin's cameras on there, and they won the contract. And so Randy, based on my combat experience, said, hey, will you come help us train Glenn and Monica and all the actors and actresses And I said, sure, that'd be great. So we went out to LA, Camarillo, spent a couple of days training everybody in a jet, getting them used to high aspect, talking to them about BFM, talking to them about anti-G straining maneuver. Before they went into the F-18. That was December of 2018. And then in 2019, Howler called and said, hey, they need someone to fly the final fight sequence in Maverick. Will you do it? And what do you think I said?
Yes.
Let me think about it. Get back.
Yeah, of course. And so July of 2019, we went and spent 2 weeks flying 3 times a day, filming that final sequence when Maverick and Rooster steal the F-14 and then crash landed. So sorry, that's a long story, but it all pieces.
Awesome.
It all pieces together.
So where were you flying out of? Was that it? Was that in the Sierra Nevadas that we were looking at with the snow on them and everything? Where was that?
Yeah, a lot of it was out of Whidbey in the Olympic range, and then it was also out of China Lake and Tahoe Reno, Truckee Reno.
Yeah.
And so the work that we did was out of Chico, the canyons with the big granite walls, and where we're 30 feet over the river. That was all over by a place called Lake Orville, which is now full. And the Middle Fork of the Feather River is where we did that filming.
Well, that's pretty darn awesome.
And then the water work was back in Camarillo out off the Channel Islands.
Okay.
It was intense. It was crazy intense.
So how much time
did the movie? Having seen the movie, they barricaded, right? The Tomcat at the end.
Yep.
Is that CGI or did they?
CGI. Okay. CGI. They brought a Tomcat in from my understanding. I wasn't part of that, but they brought a Tomcat in, put it on the deck of the carrier. I think they got it on loan from one of the museums in San Diego, like the Midway.
Okay.
And then created that scene.
Okay. Yeah, because I was looking at that and go, really?
Wait, hold on a second. Wait just a second.
I'm sorry.
You mean they weren't flying an F-14 in the movie and it didn't take a barricade without it? Hold on a second. I got to process this.
They wouldn't have paid me enough to crash a F-14 into the barricade on the back of a ship. No thanks.
Well, was that a fun experience? I mean,
it was unbelievable. Super intense. Yeah, I mean, it was all below 100 feet, super close to each other, right? To make it look right correctly on film. I mean, it's really tight nose to tail. It's really tight to the canyon walls.
You had the actors in your back seat.
Not for the final fight scene.
Okay.
Not for the final fight scene. They were in the back of the F-18s, but all the F-18 footage was filmed by active duty military personnel.
Okay.
Yeah. So we didn't have anybody in our back seats when we were doing all that filming. But
so you were chasing them. You were chasing them to film it. The final fight scene.
Well, so Howler and I, we flew both the role of the Tomcat and the role of the Su-57, and so there were multiple Su-57s. And we would show up in the morning. We'd see a storyboard, right, a 2-dimensional cartoon of the image that they wanted for the film, and then we would determine how we could get that image on film with the camera crews, walk through it, talk about it, mitigate the risk, and then go out and try to capture it.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
Yeah, it was really intense. I mean, we would fly under helicopters, and the helicopters were under 100 feet, and it was just nutty.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty awesome. And you're still flying. You're still flying with the Patriot.
I do still get to fly the number 5 jet for the Patriot jet team. We should be in San Francisco. It is an absolute thrill every time I do it. It's a remarkable team of professionals. That's how it's an adrenaline rush.
So do you guys, how many air shows do you guys do a year? I mean, just average.
Well, post-COVID, we were probably doing 8 pre-COVID. The last year and a half, we've probably done 7 in total. We think that 2024, as the world is back into a normal rhythm, that we'll do more. They're almost all on the West Coast, Washington, Oregon, California, Nevada.
That
Arizona.
makes it logistically a little easier. Any issues with scheduling from your current employer to get that
No,
done?
and no, full support, which is really great. It's all volunteer. We don't get paid. We
Yeah.
just do it for the love of the game, if you will, to include the maintenance personnel. And, everybody likes to have a team and be part of a group or a tribe. And,
Right,
the Patriot
right.
Jet team is, I just love it. It makes me really happy. When they offered me the job, I called my wife and said, "Hey, they offered me the job." And she said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Well, Lisa, it makes me really happy. Like I feel alive." And she said, "Well, then you should do it." And
Nice.
that was 6 years ago. It's awesome.
That's awesome. Well,
That's
you
great
you
support, too.
definitely married above your pay grade.
Yeah.
What does the Blue Angels Foundation do?
Yeah.
I appreciate you asking about that. So, the Blue Angels Foundation is kind of a juggernaut of fundraising because of the brand of the Blue Angels. And I was asked to be on the board of the Blue Angels Foundation. And we raise money to primarily help prevent veteran suicide and provide the funding required for outpatient or inpatient PTSD treatment. We also help provide funding for canines to help service veterans transition both with their mental health and their physical health. And we are partnered with Freedom Station in San Diego, which is transitional housing. And so I'll tell a story that is very impactful, not to bring everything down, but
That's
how
cool. No, man, let it
pivotal
rip.
moment it was for my life. So both of my kids went to the Naval Academy,
Yeah.
and our oldest son, his roommate was Vaughn. And in November 5th, 2021, I'm at the 75th reunion for the Blue Angels. Same story that I told about Jungle. Friday night, we walk into our hotel room. The kids are there. It's a really great event. And Wyatt, my son, gets a phone call that Vaughn had taken his own life.
Oh,
And I had lost another squadron mate who had committed suicide. My mother had tried to commit suicide twice when I was in high school.
Oh my
And so it
gosh.
was a real pivotal moment for me where I went out on the balcony of the hotel at Pensacola Beach and it was just sobbing and sobbing, like collapsed. And at that moment, I realized that I have a voice, I have a platform, and I can do good. And so it's what I want to do with the remainder of my active days. And I hope to be buried in Arlington someday. I don't need my tombstone to say Blue Angel, Iraq, Afghanistan, Bronze Star, Maverick. Doesn't have to say anything. If it says saved veterans' lives,
Boom.
that's victory. And so I'm really committed to it, and the cause, and I'm just impassioned by it. Our veterans need a lot of help.
So how
Um,
how do you find that like for listeners if they wanted to be involved or wanted to donate, how
appreciate you.
how
Yeah,
do
I
you find
appreciate
that?
you asking. So the blueangelsfoundation.org, plural, blueangelsfoundation.org. You can donate right there. You can also text BAF to the number 91999 and you can donate. It's all tax deductible. We have a 5-star rating with Charity Navigator. It's all volunteer, and we are saving lives, and it feels really good. And
Dude,
so for
that's
your
awesome.
it
listeners,
sounds like the money that they give actually goes
Actually
to what
goes to
they're
where it
giving
needs
it
to go,
for,
and
not for
it
salary
goes
and
to the
stuff. Or,
veterans. And a lot of people will say,
yeah.
well, the VA should be taking care of them.
Yeah, well, they
The
should.
mentality as warfighters yourselves, the mentality of the warfighter is not to go and acknowledge, especially to a government agency, that you want some sort of mental health treatment. We don't even talk about being physically injured. And so these private organizations
you
like the
got that
Blue Angels
right.
Foundation provides anonymity, continuity of care, and get them the help that they need without judgment, ridicule, fear of some sort of career retaliation. And so that's why the private organizations exist. I appreciate you letting me share that
No,
story.
that's awesome, and that's something that I know repeat is, and I am also very passionate about.
Yeah.
Because quite frankly, combat is different for everybody, but it's really different for somebody that's actually on the ground than somebody that's sitting in an air conditioned cockpit.
Yeah, and just the effects that it has on your family. I mean, you leave for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, and there are
And there's
challenges.
that. That's
And
those
so,
are secondary side effects that nobody thinks about.
and you're making life and death decisions in a combat scenario. Then you come back and you have a hard time getting a job as an Amazon driver, or you go from this level of responsibility to not having the ability to make any decisions based on whatever career field you've gone into, and it's hard to adjust. No, here's the best way I can explain it, if I can, and I don't know how much time we have left.
As much
If
as
your
you want.
listeners have a favorite
As much
football
as, hey,
team, right? So say your favorite football team is the Packers, right? And you live in Wisconsin, you live in Green Bay, and you put on your Packers jersey and your cheese head, and you go to the tailgate or your neighborhood barbecue, and everybody's cheering and rooting, and the Packers score, and you're hugging, and it's just an incredible event, right? Because that's your team. And then imagine on Monday, they say, hey, we're going to need that uniform back. We're going to need the jersey. We're going to need the cheese head. And you can't come to these parties anymore. The sense of loss and emptiness is the same way that when you leave the service, you don't have your uniform anymore. You don't have your team. You don't have your unit. You don't have your organization. You're just,
Boy, that's probably
you're
one of
empty.
the best analogies I've ever heard.
no, that is by far the best analogy I've ever heard, dude. I mean, that is spot on. Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you
And
come
so
up with
use
Hey,
it.
did you come up with that yourself?
I did. Yeah.
Son of a
check
bitch.
check
You
out
should
the
write a
brain.
book. You should write a book.
Hey, you should write a book, bro.
If there was a book that describes all of these things.
I would,
So-
I might call it, I don't know. If I was writing a book and I was you, I'd say like, Full Throttle. from the
Dude,
Blue
full
Angels to
throttle is
Hollywood
what I
Stunt
call
Pilot.
it. Full throttle.
I have
I
lived
know.
my life at full throttle for sure, and it has been it continues to be a wild ride.
Where
So
can I get that
great.
book?
Yeah, where
So,
would a guy find a book called Full Throttle that talks about
Yeah.
incredible leadership stories and things like that?
Yeah, full throttle from the Blue Angels to Hollywood Stunt Pilot is available online anywhere, but primarily, you can get it fast on Amazon. 20% of the proceeds go towards the Blue Angels
Oh,
Foundation.
nice.
Hey,
And
that's a selling
so,
point right there, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So order it. Know that you're doing good. The majority of profits go to help our veterans. I just wrote it to share my story, my experiences, hopefully inspire all ages to say yes to opportunity, learn from failure. And I have shared some very personal failures here on your show.
Thank you.
And
for that.
ask for help. Ask for help when you need it, both from a career perspective, from a mental health perspective. People want to help. Ask.
Hey, how difficult is it to get a book published these days?
It, from beginning to end was about a year for
Wow.
me.
Did
But that
you
was
enjoy writing? Was it therapeutic to write that book?
it was. Yeah, it was. And then tying the narrative together, and I asked for assistance. I got an editor. I got some people that were involved in books. I sent it to people to read it and proof it, putting the pictures together. And so my dad, who has dementia, had always said, "You have the most outrageous stories. You should write a book." And so that's kind of the reason that I finally got off my ass, is because he's not going to be with us much longer. And so I wrote it. It's good for veterans, and hopefully it has some stories in there that'll speak to readers.
I'm going to put you on the spot, and you can't maybe perfectly acceptable answer, but I'm wondering, could somebody get an autographed copy of your book?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do that all the
How would you
time.
do that?
I mean, if you and you could post my address if you want
Okay.
somewhere on your webpage.
We
But
could
if
do that.
someone
Yeah,
wants to, you can
post
buy
it.
it.
We'll post it on the so there I was.us on the blog post that is your show. Which
Yeah,
would be
and so
episode
you
66.
you can absolutely order a book off of Amazon. Use my address, send it to me.
Okay.
I'll sign it for you and launch it right back at you.
Nice.
In fact, I just dropped 3 books off at the post office today.
That's pretty awesome,
of
dude.
other readers that have done that. So happy to do it. All of the things that I've been able to do, I just want to share. I've been fortunate, and I'm happy to share my journey from watching Top Gun to performing in Top Gun, and
That's
now
pretty.
Right.
That's
Being
pretty
in high
incredible.
school watching Top Gun, to
Right.
being one of the stunt pilots on Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah.
So not exactly that story, because I had already signed the dotted line and was going to officer candidate school.
Yeah.
The month that came out. Okay, the movie. And
Yeah.
but when I went to Marine Corps officer candidate school that summer of '86, I was candidate Top Gun.
Were you really?
Well, that's anybody that had an air contract was just candidate Top Gun.
Right.
So candidate Top Gun, drop down, give me 9,000 push-ups, candidate Top Gun. It's like I hate that movie.
Yeah.
I was already in before the movie came out. I was like, no, this is what I want to do. And then that movie came along, and now I'm candidate Top Gun.
Yeah, but you try to explain that to a drill instructor, and then you're going to do 18,000 push-ups. So
there was none of that. Okay,
we're just a punchline to those guys.
Yeah,
now this is just for your entertainment intake. I'm telling my wife, I said, listen, I gotta get back. So I'm on vacation right now. I said, I gotta get back. I'm interviewing this guy. Well, just tell me about him. And I said, well, here. And I showed her the bio and the whole thing. And I go, a little side note for you. I go, he was one of my flight students when I was an instructor in Kingsville. And she got real serious, and she goes, well, he obviously did all that because you were such a great leader and taught him. And I go, dude, I don't even remember him. He's the one that told me that I was one of his instructors. But
I remember you, Fig, and your wife is dead accurate.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Fig, you're just lucky she didn't go, well, what the hell's wrong with you then? Why didn't you do all this cool stuff?
Why weren't you a Top Gun movie stunt pilot and a Blue Angel? I'm like, well, honey, I tried. I just wasn't that cool.
That's great.
No, we all married. I mean, I seriously married way above my my pay grade. I tell you that.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's the fighter pilot upgrade, right?
Yeah.
They're impressed that we're fighter pilots, and then they realize that we act like 13-year-olds, and then they become wildly unimpressed.
Yeah. My wife refers to me. She describes me to her friends as I'm married to a pinball.
Yeah.
Because I never sit. I can't sit down. I can't.
Oh, Big, I'm with you. I'm in constant motion. It seems.
Constant motion.
I'm actually more like a light switch. I'm either on or I'm off.
I think, and that's something that we all have in common. All of us that do this kind of job, come from this background, is we are a switch. Yeah. You're on or you're off. There's not really nothing.
Now that I hit my 60s, I tend to find myself in the off position for an hour or so in the middle of the damn day. What the hell happened?
That's a micro off. That's just momentarily, just a quick recharge, repeat.
Nap.
That's
fighter nap. That's all. Yeah, they're just longer.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't want to take any more of your time. I'm kind of out of questions. Is there something that I haven't thought of? Repeat or intake? What do you think?
I saw the only other question I saw was from some of the bullet points we got was DU EMBA student.
Denver University.
Yeah.
Denver University. Okay.
Yeah, I'm getting my executive MBA right now, primarily because I wanted to get kind of a background in finance a little bit deeper. As an accountant, I have an interest in that, and so I wanted to sharpen my skills. I had the time to do it, at least I thought I did, but then I decided to write a book and go to school. And so,
and then you got your other job, the other thing that kind of takes it's a time suck.
Yeah, that's right. And so, but I intend to use all of that with the Blue Angels Foundation.
Hey, that's fantastic. That's fantastic.
And see if we can't use it forward. Yeah.
Oh, outstanding.
Do you have to be a former Blue Angel to be involved in the Blue Angel Foundation?
No, we have some really talented people with skill sets. Blue Angels are okay at flying airplanes. We're pretty good at gland handing and shaking hands and telling stories in recruiting, if you will, because that's our primary mission. But fundraising is kind of a different beast. And until you make the transition of being able to ask in a professional, respectful manner, but what you find is most donors actually, they show up at events expecting to be asked. So make the ask And if they can, they will. And if they can't, that's okay too. Keep asking.
Nice.
Yep.
Very cool. All right. So real quickly again, revisit that then for me. It was BAF to
It's blueangelsfoundation.org or B, and then there was a text BAF.
BAF, the letters for Blue Angels Foundation, BAF to 91999. And you can get the book from Amazon or go to scottcartfett.com and you can purchase it there also. And I appreciate you letting me make those shameless plugs.
Absolutely.
The veterans I could make all day long with the Blue Angels Foundation.
Yeah.
It's a little humbling to push the book, but I appreciate you.
No, well, thank you for your service, both in service and post service, and because you apparently don't know how to quit, you're still doing it. So, thank you for that, and God bless you. That's
man. Thanks for joining us and sharing your stories. And listen, if we sign off, if you think of something, make some bullet points. Because we'll have you back for a refresh.
Come back.
Well, I'll whet your appetite a little bit. October and November, I got a call from Tom, and he asked me to go participate in a movie, another movie that I can't talk about. But I spent some time in October and November working with Tom on a follow-on movie.
His buddy Tom, not Mr. Cruz. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that tantalizes the imagination a little bit. Thank you for that.
Just a little bit. It'll leave. Maybe we'll get the chance to talk about that when that movie releases.
All right,
That'll
excellent.
Be fun.
All right, would you come back? Would you come back and visit with us at some point?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's been a treat. I enjoyed it.
Sorry, repeat. I didn't mean to.
A couple of Navy pilots sitting around BSing. Who doesn't love that?
Oh, I know where I was going with this. That's kind of what that's what brought this podcast on. Really, was we wanted to have a platform so guys could tell their stories, and that's why we're here, really, to get guys to tell their stories. And we've had some great stories, and we got some outstanding stories from you. So thank you.
We do indeed. So, hey, let me. I just unfortunately it's getting time to land the airplane. But let me ask this, and you can't talk about it. Understand? Would this happen to be a movie that has the words "Mission" or "Impossible" in it?
I wish that I could say repeat.
Okay, that's a good answer. I like that answer.
Does it rhyme with the Titanic? Yes or no? Oh, I just need to know that. Does it rhyme with Titanic?
There you go. So look, all right. Well, it is time to land the airplane, so thank you for your service. Thank you for coming on, and you've said you'll come back, and we're going to hold you to that, so thank you. I also want to thank, we've got 3 new Patreon pilots with us this week, Fig. We got Jonathan Knuckles, Justin Lundberg-Neff, and some dude named Vapor have all joined as Patreon pilots. So
Vapor and Knuckles as in Dragger? Let's
most likely.
So, yeah, Knuckles Dragger, yeah.
Well, thanks to all 3 of you gents. That's awesome, man. That is really awesome.
Yeah. That if Jonathan Knuckles wasn't a pilot,
Call sign Dragger would be good.
Call sign Dragger. So, let's see what else. We got to thank the folks over at Backbeat Media, one by the name of Dave Hamilton, who helped us put this podcast on the air so you can hear these great stories. The Patreon pilots help keep the engines running, to keep them coming to you. Dave Hamilton gives us the knowledge to make it right. And then I'm wearing the shirt. If you're watching on video, Fig's wearing the hat. The merch store. How do we get to the merch store?
Shit, I don't know.
Okay, I'll tell you.
Wait, hold on a second. Is it so there I was?
There you
go. There I was. .us/merch.
There you go.
Boom.
See? Easy to remember. Easy to remember.
It's right there.
Yeah.
It's right there. Hey, we have awesome merch, including a bikini.
Yeah. And when this podcast comes out, we'll have a new sponsor that we'll be welcoming on board, Babbel. I didn't have the talking points to hit for tonight, but Babbel will be coming on. So we thank you for their support to help keep the show coming to you. One of the more important things is the glossary page. Man, we keep hitting all these acronyms and these terms, and so there it was.
I didn't hear any new ones
glossary.
tonight other than the BAF, which we already said was the Blue Angel Foundation.
That's a good one and easy. We hit rad out last week, which I was surprised wasn't on there. Radar altimeter. So, but that's there. Fig, if someone wanted to ask you a question via email, how would they do that?
They can send it to fig at so there I was .us.
Yeah. Or send me
there.
one at repeat at so there I was.us, REPETE. If you got any whirly-bird questions, send them to Sticks at so there I was.us.
Whirling death trap of parts spinning.
Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we've sadly come to the end of our time together tonight. I think I hear something. My hearing's not so good after all these jet engines. You hear?
I'm hearing it, and I'm telling you, I know that sound. That is the sound of the Dos Gringos, the two F-16 pilots that make the Air Force sound good.
Yeah, they do.
Great
Thank you, gents,
songs.
for coming on the show.
Great songs.
You listen to them?
Oh yeah, they're hilarious. My kids and still in training listen to them. But those gringos live on in fighter aviation.
Oh yeah. It is. They're fighter pilot legend songs, man. They really are.
Yeah,
They're awesome. They're awesome indeed. So thank you, gents, for letting us use your music to help make our show even better. We can't thank you enough. So until next every week, say that 3 times fast. Until next week, everyone, stay safe. Check 6.
Don't sit on the ejection seat handle.
Right. And don't sit on the collective either, Fig. Just saying.
Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the shit I was wearing on that day. Now an F-16 is cramped enough, but it's even worse with all that stuff supposed to save your life. But we knew there was no way. 'Cause when you're going down the North Atlantic, man, it's over.
What do you say, Fig?
It's over.
Piece of cake. Cake.
Yeah, we're out.
Woo!
All right.
Well, intake. I don't know about you, but I had fun.
yeah, it was a great time. I appreciate it. I think the stories may have been a little long, but I'm trying to weave them together, right, to answer the question.
They were
the
not
way you'd
long,
asked.
dude.
No, this is
No,
great.
that was
This
really
is
good.
perfect length. And
It was really
the
good.
whole
interview,
point
bro.
is to actually spend a little time with some of this instead of, 30 to 90 second inputs. So,
Right.
no, that's great.
It was a really good interview. It's supposed to be like, hey, we're sitting at the bar having a beer and we're telling
Just telling a
stories.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really good. Really good. bro.
Yeah, I hope I did that. And by all means, send me the links when it goes live. I'll plaster it all. I got a social media person. I'll go bonkers with it. So, and then I'm not gonna. I'll pay for one of those hats, but will you just bring one to work? Bring one to the standards meeting or something.
Yeah, I'll give you.
We'll
I'll
make
give
it
you.
happen. Yeah, absolutely.
You
Or
want
do you
navy
need me-
blue?
We
You
didn't
want
talk
navy
about
blue
what's
or
on the
black-
merch store.
you want
We
navy
got
blue or
koozies,
what?
We
Oh,
got
yeah.
hats. We're
I'm gonna.
actually
Hey,
still
I
live.
have a mug. I'll bring him a mug to this day. I'm coming in August.
I tell you what, actually, I will. I'll just go to the merch store and buy it. I mean,
No, we
for
don't.
sure.
But I'll bring you one of our original mugs. It's got the what's behind me on the mug. We were
which
sending
is-
those.
that's
We're sending
awesome.
those
by
to
the
all of
way.
our guests. So and I have still like 3 at my house in the packaging. So I'll just bring it when I come out in August.
Are you coming to the August standards meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm presenting the CRM course, so I'll be there for sure.
Oh, there you
I
go.
will deliver it personally to you.
There you go. Yeah. So
Awesome.
Sticks, our Coast Guard helo pilot, is the guy who designed that banner for us.
It's badass.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
Yeah, it's a really great banner.
Yeah, actually, he designed the
He designed the other logo too.
our logo that's on your
On
shirt.
my
there.
shirt.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So
Okay.
I don't know if you can
And
see it, but in the visor
In fact,
of the
well,
helmet.
I'll do it now. I'll pull it up now, and then I'll make mine big.
Okay.
Just give me a second to change the background.
In the
There
visor of
are
the
still
helmet
people watching.
is an
Oh.
upside down. Is an upside down. Wait, can you see?
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
in the
he's
visor.
with the hang on. There we
In
go.
the visor itself is a goat, and he's upside down. So you're inverted, and the idea is, hey, what's that mountain goat doing up here in the clouds?
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, isn't that great? Now it's
I
nothing
love
like
it.
being 27 feet above the deck.
Nothing like that, bro. Nothing like that at all.
Yeah, I thought you guys might like that opener. I'm like, oh,
That
I'll
was
just
a
tease
great
you this.
opener. That was great.
Fabulous. That
Great
was
opener.
fantabulous. Yeah, no, I like that.
That's good. All right, gents, I'm gonna rock and roll. I told my
Okay.
wife I'd take her to dinner at 7. I got about 11 minutes to get my shit
All right,
together.
I need about.
Yeah, get
I'm
going,
let me
bro.
End the broadcast before you go. There we go.
Okay.
And
Oh yeah.